Hi, and welcome to this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. Today, an update from our town manager, Kristi Williams, on municipal finance and staffing. And then for our last month of May, May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we'll hear from Hannah Wallace, a Westborough High School student, and have a really interesting conversation with her. So stay tuned. Hi and welcome back. I'm joined by our town manager, Kristi Williams, a regular face now on the show.
That's right. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So a couple updates.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about some staffing updates. So the planning board last week met and interviewed Jennifer Gingras from the town of Pepperell for the town planner position, actually now director of planning.
Right.
We changed that title. So, subject to reference check, hopefully we'll be able to bring her on board.
Great.
And let Jim Robbins actually retire.
Right.
Because he's been really helping us out since he left,
Right.
just filling in that gap.
Right.
So.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we'll. I can't wait to meet Jennifer. I didn't have a chance to attend the interview as an audience member, but very excited to have her on such a critical position, and looking forward to having her on at some point as a guest to learn a little bit more about her. And the town continues to grow and change, and planning is such an important part of it. And so particularly with the master plan implementation, which I know you're a member of, so lots going on there. And other staffing updates.
Yeah, so just wanted to give an update about Chief Laurie. I know that it's been in the newspaper and definitely hearing chatter about kind of what's going on with him, so just wanted to fill in. So he was given a conditional offer of employment as police chief in the town of Falmouth.
Yep.
And so subject to background investigations and things and confirmation by the select board, their process is a little bit different than it is here. On June 5th, he will go in front of the select board in Falmouth, and they will consider confirmation of that appointment.
Okay.
So we'll know for sure whether or not he's going to take that position after that June 5th.
Right. So our select board meeting here in Westborough, next one is June 13th.
Right.
And so we'll have an understanding where that stands, and then we would be in a position to potentially make a conditional appointment, because we need or not conditional, an interim. Thank you. Appointment of a police chief, and then there would be a process thereafter to follow.
Yeah, so similar to when Chief Gordon left, and then actually he came back and served as interim. When our previous town manager left, I served as interim. So we would be looking for an interim while we go through whatever
that
process.
Out amazing.
Amazing,
right?
Yeah.
So look at that. And then one of the things that folks, as I talk with them in the community, they ask about, the understanding of municipal finance is not always, it's not something we all kind of live and breathe like you do. And so there's this understanding of maybe like, well, at the end of the year, like, what happens? Everyone just expends their budgets.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, because we're coming up to that as this fiscal year ends June 30th.
Right. So in the months of May and June, if folks are watching the agendas for the select board and the advisory finance committee, you might see interdepartmental transfers on there. And so under the law in May and June, we can transfer, subject to approval by those two boards, money from one budget to another. So even within one department, we actually recently did this with DPW, we can't expend any leftover salary line for an expense. We have to go and ask, can we move that money from salaries to expenses?
And there has to be a reason. It's not just, like we just like to kind of move it over here. It's a specific reason. And I think the most recent one, DPW, was snow and ice, as I recall.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. So from that budget, so that we could stock salt for next winter, which
cheaper
we don't want to think about right
less
now.
expensive.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we move money if there's extra money in a budget. If another budget needs it, then it can go under that process. And then any money that's unexpended at the end of the year would be part of that certified free cash calculation, which we can only be expended by town meeting.
Right. Right. So. Excellent. Okay. Well, appreciate that primer. Keep bringing us those little tidbits. A great build up to the Citizen Leadership Academy, which I'm going to continue to promote.
Yep.
So that's great. All right, Kristi, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again or another town staff guest soon.
That's good.
All
Thanks.
right, super. We'll be right back with our next guest, Hannah Wallace. Thanks. Hi, and welcome back. I'm joined by our featured guest, Hannah Wallace. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very excited. Before we get into our conversation, just a little bit of kind of perspective for our viewers. So by all accounts, without a personal glimpse into Hannah's world, which she'll give to us in a minute, she's a person who's doing just fine, more than just fine, excelling in all areas that she pursues. And if you were her parent, you'd be more than proud of her. But in reality, Hannah was struggling significantly with her mental health, and she courageously, underlined, shared this in a March 2023 article that was published in the Lobby Observer, which is a Westborough High School awesome newspaper. And so it being the last day of May, May being Mental Health Awareness Month, Hannah graciously, with permission of her parents, who I know agreed to be a guest on the show and to talk about kind of her experience and to educate us and to help others. So Hannah, welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you like, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so as Shelby said, I'm Hannah Wallace. I'm a sophomore at Westborough High School, and earlier on this school year, I really struggled with my mental health more than I ever had before. I came off of a really good freshman year. I had straight A's, I had a boyfriend, great group of friends, made the most competitive sports team at school, and I was genuinely happy, and I was having a really great time. And going into sophomore year, I felt like I had to maintain, this idea of being perfect in every single area of my life, which when you say it out loud, it sounds pretty impossible. But that's just kind of that mindset that I had. And so I already went into the year with these expectations and these pressures on myself, coming from myself too, which is an important aspect to keep in mind. And yeah, I just kind of began to crumble under that pressure. And I will always remember by the end of September, it was the night of homecoming, I went home and I just cried, like I broke down. I was just so obsessed with having to have everything under my control, having everything perfect. So when it wasn't going perfect, when I had like issues with friends, trying to figure out plans for homecoming, like these little things like that typically wouldn't bother anyone, I just lost it. And so from then, those next few months after that, I noticed a shift in my entire personality. I wasn't really this like upbeat, joyful person that people would know me as. But regardless, every single day for school, even if I was forced out of bed, I put on my makeup, put on a cute outfit, whatever.
You got the whole thing
to
going
look
on.
Exactly, to look like I was completely fine, and so no one knew besides the people in my house. Really, no one knew what was going on. So, yeah.
So Hannah, if it's okay with you, I'd love to read an excerpt from the article. We will post the link so folks can read it at their leisure. So it starts with this. Everything becomes still. My breath chokes me. My feet stick to the ground like they're weighted down by cinder blocks. My muscles tighten. My chest tightens. My lungs tighten. A dampness forms in the palm of my hands. I seem to notice every crevice, every curve, every indent on my skin. Everything stops. Everything except for my mind. What if you fail? What if you let them down? What if you mess up? What if you aren't good enough? Stop. Give up. Run. Hide. Cry. Die. So, as I felt so much when I read your article. I felt heartache, curiosity, certainly compassion, a heaviness, but courage, unbelievable courage for your willingness to bring forward your thoughts in such a public way. And this is a deeply personal piece. You're at a time in your life where a lot of peer pressure, influence. What compelled you to write this, and how important was, I'm curious, the article as part of your process?
Yeah, so it was like about January, February when I wrote it. And at this time, I had started seeing a therapist. I was on medication, and I was feeling a lot better. I still feel better now than I did in January and February, but I was doing a lot better. And we got this essay assignment, and it was initially an assignment for English class.
Okay.
And I thought, like, I should take something that I can really write about. Like, why not? This is a great opportunity for that. And so I sat down, and I've never had a time when I've written something for a class where it's just come together so perfectly. It really did. Like, within 45 minutes, I had it done. And from there, I mean, some edits were made, but it was really like all put together the way I wanted it to be. And I remember reading it to my mom, and her and I were both in tears, and I realized, like, this is
bring me there.
like, this is a powerful piece. Like, this can really do something. And in class, we did like our peer editing and all of that. And I remember seeing how surprised my partners were.
Yeah.
Not even because of the writing style, but because of the fact that it was my story, and they had no idea that it was my story.
Yeah.
And from there, I realized, like, how important it is for someone who looks like they've got everything together to show that they don't.
Sure.
And so I'm in journalism class as well, and I talked to my journalism teacher about it, and she supported me completely.
Yeah.
And from there, you know, she helped me upload it and post it. And that night after it was posted, I got so many comments and
Yeah.
friends texting me saying not only, like, I'm here for you, but I can really relate to this. Like, thank you for this. And so I honestly think that sharing it with, like, other high school kids
Yeah.
was probably harder than actual adults, like, for me at least.
Yeah.
So then my mom uploaded it and posted it on Facebook. And the amount of adults who had said, like, I need to show this to my kids and stuff, that really moved me. And just, like, I was so overwhelmed with excitement. It's such a different feeling of overwhelmingness than I felt, like,
Right.
months before that.
Right.
It was really like your voice can do something.
Yeah.
And so it was just a really cool experience.
Oh, wow.
So.
Okay. I didn't get the Kleenex. We'll make do without that. So you talk in your article, and you just mentioned it, about kind of the, you know, talking and expressing and kind of therapy.
Yeah.
And then ultimately you talk about medication too. So why is talking about it, I mean, it sounds like such a simplistic question.
Yeah.
Why is talking about it, either in this way in your writing and sharing it, or with a therapist, why is that been important to you?
Yeah, you know, I think I'm really lucky in the sense that I grew up in a family where mental health, like, is not a taboo subject at all. But I'm also aware that it's not like that for most people. Unfortunately, even though a lot of the times you like to think that, like, oh, like, 21st century, like, we're all supportive about mental health. Like, it's not. It really isn't. And, you know, when talking about it, it still feels like people are going to judge you, or at least that's how I felt. And I do know that that's
you're spot
how.
on, by the way. Yeah.
So for me, one of the biggest parts about getting better and creating a plan to get better was knowing that, like, people were going to be there for me. I felt like I would miss some days or, like, some mornings of school.
Sure.
And I would stress out about the fact that, like, what if my teachers don't understand? Like, what
Yeah.
if they give me a bad grade because I missed an assignment?
Sure.
And so I emailed them individually, and not one of them had any issue with it at all. And they were all supportive, and they were all there to help me. And I didn't think that I had that. Like, even though I had been raised in a household where I knew, like,
Sure.
it's okay to be anxious and it's okay to struggle with your mental health,
Yeah.
I still didn't think that other people would be accepting of it. But they were. And what I thought going into it was far from the truth. And so by sharing this message, I really hope that other people and other teenagers especially understand people are there for you. People do want to help you. No one's out to get you. You know, school counselors, I feel like sometimes people think if you go to the counselor's office, like, what's going on?
Sure.
No, like, they're there to help you. And I remember having a follow-up appointment with my counselor recently. And, you know, she was just like, I'm so proud of you. And, you know, that's someone who does, like, hope and want the best for you.
Sure.
And, you know, also for me, talking to a therapist, feeling like I can talk to my friends about it is really important. I mean, I think it was very therapeutic writing this essay, but it's just as therapeutic to talk to people about it. Even like coming here today, it really is a therapeutic experience.
Well, this, to, you know, based on what you're saying and some of the other conversations we've had offline, this is just really like I mean, this piece was just I'll call it like a tip, not a tipping point, but like a one avenue, I guess.
Yeah.
But that process continues, and that's the important part of, right, you know, addressing kind of your mental health and improving that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So what do you want, you've touched on this a little bit, but what do you want young people to know? What do you want your peers to know who
Yeah.
may be struggling with this? And we'll get to the adults because they're maybe more complex
Yeah.
than the kids.
I think one of the biggest questions that I had too was, how do I know that this is an anxiety like disorder versus just feeling anxious? Because,
Yeah.
a lot of people feel anxious at times and may think like, is this normal? Is this
Sure.
okay? Because the reality is, as a human, we're supposed to feel sad. We're supposed to feel nervous.
Sure.
Like, that's part of life. So I think for me, when I knew like, this is more than just like a normal, like, amount of anxiety that I should be feeling, was when I was continuously not able to get out of bed. It was really affecting my day-to-day life. And that's really that like difference between just feeling anxious and then actually having like an anxiety disorder, is when it's affecting your ability to go about your day and your daily routines.
So talk about that, because I think if you're a parent that has never experienced this, a caregiver, a grandparent, what have you, even a peer, when you say you couldn't get out of bed,
Yeah.
what is that? Like,
Yeah, no,
like,
like,
is it like an energy level? Is it just like, I'm under my covers and this is safe? Like, what is that?
I am an all honors student.
Yeah.
I prioritize school more than almost anyone else I know.
Yeah.
And my family knows that
Yeah.
too. And my friends know that, and my teachers know that. And that's kind of always been my identity, is like,
Yeah.
I'm the one who does good in school, pretty
Sure,
much.
sure.
And so for me to not get out of bed really says a lot. The fact that I was willing to miss school and be behind, like, was really a game changer for me, because that's just not who I am in
Yeah.
any way. So, it's not that I was tired. It's not like, I think everyone gets
And it's very
tired in the
different for
morning.
everyone too.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
because your experience is your experience, but it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that others kind of might express the same but feel
Yeah.
differently to get there.
It's really this like mental block, like you just can't do it. Like you don't know where to start. I always like say it's like I have like 8 conversations going on in my mind at one time. Like you don't know where to focus. You don't know what to pay attention to. Like
Sure.
it's not that like I was exhausted or even sad. It was just that I would get out of bed and it's like, where do I start? Like,
Yeah.
what do I do first?
Yeah.
And so if that much was like stressful for me, how do I get to school? How do I go
Right.
and like
And
go
deal
about
with
a
everything
school
else,
day?
right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how do I do that? And so it all starts with just waking up, and it's just this complete block of not knowing what to do.
Yeah. Wow. Letting that sink in for a moment. Did I say you're courageous? So what about the adults, right? So, I'm a parent. Lots of folks here that watch this show are both parents or grandparents, and this goes out to the community.
Yeah.
But what do we need to know? Like, what do we need to grapple with to address this?
Yeah, I think as a parent, seeing your child struggle is really scary. And I think it's important for parents to know that as a kid dealing with anxiety, we're just as scared as you are. Like, I didn't know what was happening to me. I felt like I was really losing control. My parents were really great in the sense that they didn't look like they were losing control either. Like, they were very grounded and they helped me and they were reasonable about everything. So I definitely urge other parents to, maintain control of the situation, act like it's normal, because it is. Like, so many people deal with this.
Right.
It's not the end of the world. Like, it will be okay. And I think also understanding that it takes time for things to get better. The process of healing is not like a road to success. It really, there are some days where I would wake up and I'd feel a lot better. Then the next week I would go through a little rough patch again. And then it kind of gradually evens out to the point where now like I'm fine.
Right.
But I think it's important for parents to understand that, your child may seem good one day and then they may have another bad day, and that's okay and that's normal, and it will get better, but you kind of have to go with it. Like my mom always told me, like, you have to like ride the wave of anxiety because it will pass. You just have to let it pass, really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I would imagine, and you kind of said this, right? You have developed, I don't know if the right word is better coping skills or improved coping skills, or know how to kind of apply those.
Yeah.
And one of those might be like, I can ride this wave, right? Like I can get through this. One of the things I think, at least I've heard through other parents who have children who are struggling and addressing their mental health is that the schools have a number of resources. So can you just share a little bit from your view, like what supports are there for students, if you could?
Yeah, there's obviously like the guidance counselors at school, but I do know that sometimes isn't always comfortable for kids, especially like I think of last year if I was a freshman, would I have been as comfortable going down? Probably not. Yeah. But even just your teachers, and I really can't stress that enough. My teachers were awesome, and I can guarantee that out of I have like 7, 8 teachers, there's at least one who you could really sit down and talk with. Like I can think of a couple off the top of my head who if I had an issue with, they'd be willing to like talk with me during lunch or during break at school. So that's a really good one. Like ask for help, like ask for the extension and explain why. Like, it's one thing to just say like, oh, like can I finish this assignment for next week? But it's okay to like email them and say, I'm really struggling with my mental health right now. And that's what I had to do. And I mean, it doesn't make it awkward between you and your teachers. Like now you would have never like, I forget about it, that even happened months ago. And then yes, like the school counselors are a great resource too. Especially if you need to get out of your classroom. I know taking a walk in the hall is okay, especially with the rules about like not being able to like stand around in the halls and everything. Going to the counselor's office, it's really a quiet place to just sit and like reorient yourself so that you can then go back to class.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point about just, I'll call them kind of your frontline teachers being a resource because, even just asking, can I go out and go someplace else? Now, your peers are like, and maybe this is more commonplace. I can only relate to it from back when I was many years ago. Then they're like, oh, where'd you go?
Yeah.
Like, how come you were late for the next class? Because I don't know about you, but many of us used to kind of travel in packs of like to different classes, right? And so there is that kind of curiosity. So hopefully there's a better understanding, and it sounds like the teachers and supports are in place, particularly at the high school, and I know certainly at Gibbons as well. And not to exclude the elementary schools, but life gets more complex, right?
Yeah, it definitely does.
So you're doing great. I love the when you closed, or you talk about feeling happiness again, right?
Yeah.
Like, and what kind of brought you back to that. So where are you at now? What makes you happy today?
Yeah.
Other than being here, of course.
I think that's an important part to the story too, is that it does get better and you will get better. And I also hope that viewers know that like you will get better. You have to give it time, but you will find what you love. One of my uncles, he told me, I was talking to him about this, he said, when you find what you're passionate about, everything will fall into place. And I cannot stress that enough. Once I really realized what my passions were, which for me, and it varies for everyone. Sure. Working with kids, I love it. I really want to be a teacher someday. And so, I work at a summer camp with the preschool kids, and I love it. Yeah. I volunteer with Best Buddies. I volunteer with Special Olympics with the little kids. I tutor, I started that, babysitting, like picking up all these things that really bring me joy and putting aside the things that don't bring me joy. And with that too, talking about mental health, I think has also become one of my passions. And I wouldn't have known that before all of this, like I knew like I'm comfortable talking about it, but realizing like how much I do care about this issue. And so, writing this, taking a higher position in the Lobby Observer, which is the journalism club at my high school, and all of that. And, going into the summer, I feel like I really am like coming together, like everything's coming together as planned.
Yeah, and shout out to Mrs. Stoker.
Mrs. Stoker,
I
my
hear
teacher.
Amazing things. I'm going to hopefully
awesome.
Someday she'll be a guest on the show.
I hope so. She should. She really should. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. No, I love that you've found ways for joy, and I think allowing ourselves, whether we're young or not so young, to let go of the things that maybe people assume like, well, this should make you happy, whether it's money or certain expectations or sports or whatever it is, right? That to be able to say, that's like, I'm okay to put that aside now, and I have some other things that really drive kind of my happiness and I'm so glad you found that. So thank you so much for being a guest, and look forward to your progress and all good things.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you so much.
Really.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. Be well, take care of each other, and always have hope.